You're listening to ayahuascapodcast.com.
A common misconception that people don't understand with ayahuasca is that there are many different ways to serve medicine. They do it differently in Brazil than they do in Colombia, than they do in Peru, than they do in other parts of Peru, than they do in Guatemala and Ecuador. And so they're using what we would all consider ayahuasca, but it's still slightly different medicine. There are different alkaloids that are going to be present in the one that's cooked in Peru versus the one that's cooked in Colombia. And so as somebody who, when you're first coming to ayahuasca, I think probably the most popular one that people hear about is the Shipibo tradition. And so that's not the only one, though. There are other traditions and other ways that people do medicine. So being able to have that open mind and understanding they're all healing, you just have to understand that and be open to that experience that you're going to have.
In this episode of Ayahuasca Podcast, I speak to Cam Leids. We talk about how his layoff served as synchronicity to change his life, how dark night of the soul can result in rebirth. We talk about how to choose the best ayahuasca retreat and so much more. Enjoy this episode. This episode is sponsored by La Huayra Ayahuasca Retreat. At La Huayra, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. La Huayra, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you. Hi, guys, and welcome to ayahuascapodcast.com. As always, with you, the host, Sam Believ. Today, I'm interviewing Cameron Leids, or Cam Leids. Cameron is the host of Trip Sitting Podcast, and he's the founder of Conscious Retreats. All around a great guy. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam. Excited to be here, my friend.
Cameron, tell us a little bit about your story. Your life changed. We have something in common where we both went from highly lucrative and very soulless jobs to maybe less lucrative, at least in the short term, but much more soulful jobs. So tell us your story, and maybe even before that, your story of getting into psychedelics.
Yeah, man. So we do definitely have a similar story. I remember connecting with you pretty deeply on that. But my story comes from way at the beginning, a background of drugs are bad, and really believing that people that did any type of drug, were not productive members of society, and they were really dangerous for you. And so I never really experimented with drugs. I experimented with alcohol when I was in high school. Alcohol, in my mind and in everybody else's mind that was telling me drugs are bad, wasn't a drug. It was something completely different. So that was really the only thing that I experimented with. And then once I got to college, experimented with cannabis a little bit, and it just was not for me. I did not have a good relationship with it. I did not understand the purpose of it. And so that was never something that I started developing a relationship with until after college. But I had friends in college that were smart people, people that were in med school and doing chemistry and all these really kind of smart things, and the engineers that would experiment with drugs. And in my mind, I was thinking at that point, I'm like, well, these people are some of the smartest people that I know, and they're using drugs, so I don't think that drugs are necessarily the bad thing. And so that opened my mind up to at least trying different things. And believe it or not, it was actually cocaine that was the very first a drug outside of alcohol that I actually really liked. And I certainly had a relationship with that for a couple of years. But using that opened my eyes up to then trying other things. And so one of my friends came to me with some mushrooms one time. This was in, I believe, 2018. I was probably 21 years old, and asked if I wanted to just do some mushrooms. And I knew nothing about psychedelics, mushrooms. I didn't even know there were different strains. I didn't know dosing or anything like that. I just trusted my friend. And so we did that, and it was a cool experience, but it certainly wasn't like this mind altering, like life changing experience that I think some people definitely have the first time that they interact with psilocybin. But it was something I was like, yeah, I'd be open to doing that in the future. And it wasn't until 6 months later that I had my first experience with LSD. And that experience was like the big aha, light bulb, life-changing moment of like, holy shit, like there is something here. There are things that I do not know. The things that I thought I knew might not necessarily be true. And that caused me to really just start questioning things a little bit more, and not just about the world, but like really questioning things within myself. Like I definitely used to be a kid that had like some anger issues, that would get mad and that would really try to control things. And so it caused me to start questioning, why do I get mad when little things like this happen? I don't have to do that. Like it occurred to me that I'm the one making this choice to be mad. And so I can choose to just think a different way. But I still didn't quite know how to do that. I didn't realize that there was still all of this research that was actually behind these substances, and that they had been used in this capacity for healing. I was still using them like very recreationally, and just, having a lot of fun and experimenting with my own consciousness, and still using other substances on the side too. But all of those experiences eventually led me to when I was working in tech after college. I had a high-paying job. I was successful on paper by every metric, and I still just had this feeling that I wasn't fulfilled and that there was something I was missing. And I was just seeking something more, and I had no idea what that thing was. I just knew that it was out there. And I had heard about ayahuasca right at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And it sparked my interest. It was the first time like I ever heard of it on some podcasts. And I was like, wow, that sounds really interesting. But it just, like, the timing was not right at that point. And so hearing about ayahuasca kept on showing up for me every couple months or so. And I kept hearing about it and thinking more about it. And that eventually led me to booking my first ayahuasca retreat in Peru in September of 2022. And that retreat was 3 ceremonies over the course of a week. And that absolutely just changed my life. I mean, it course corrected. It showed me that all of the decisions that I had made up until that point had not truly been for me. They had all been to please other people or please society or please this idea that I had about myself in my head that wasn't actually true. And so it showed me who I truly was, and then also how to love that person. Like, that was the first time in my life that I experienced true, deep self-love. And from there, it helped me understand, like, that's the only thing that actually matters. Like, in order to be successful and to feel good and to feel wealthy, all I need to do is genuinely love myself for exactly who I am, and trust that the universe will put the things in place and show me what it is that I need to see in order to then actually continue on that path. And so I came back from that and was thinking, well, I don't think I can keep working in tech anymore. This job just is not aligning with what it is that I want to do. But I had no idea what to do at that point. So I started the podcast, which had actually started just as a blog before I went to Peru to do ayahuasca, probably about 4 or 5 months earlier. But I started the podcast to just have these conversations with people who are also awakening and having these thoughts. And then about a month later, I got laid off from my job. And I knew that that was the right thing for me, because right after it happened, I remember feeling so happy. Like, I was just smiling. I was like, well, that worked out pretty well. I didn't need to like quit and worry about that, because I was, probably going to be too scared to actually quit myself and take that leap. So I think that was the universe's way of just nudging me off and being like, okay, you wanted time to figure it out. Here's your time. And yeah, I did a lot of thinking and soul searching during that time. And I was living in Chicago. I decided to move to Denver. I was continuing my work with the podcast, and then I started Conscious Retreats, just because my time trying to find a retreat center was kind of difficult. And I remember thinking, I bet that there are other people that are looking to have this experience that are also just getting stuck in the process of finding the retreat center. It seems like there's so many choices and there's not enough good information out there about what you're doing, about what you should be looking for, that, I just wanted to be that sounding board for somebody else that's going through that process to be able to actually talk through it and talk with somebody that has connected with different retreat centers. So I started reaching out to a bunch of retreat centers and having conversations with them that just understands the landscape a little bit more. And yeah, that eventually led me to meeting some people that actually work with specific retreat centers. And now I work with a couple specific retreat centers doing like the intake and being a discovery guide and a guardian of their space. And then I also still do conscious retreats for anybody that comes to me through there, where I have like my own network of people or of centers that I feel comfortable getting people in contact with. So like I'm never setting anything up. I'm never telling anybody, hey, you should go here, because it's always a really personal decision. I'm just helping make that decision process easier and helping people take it step by step, so it doesn't feel like the whole world is just, coming in on them and they have a million things to think about. We'll just take it one step at a time. So that would be my story in a nutshell.
It's a good story and a very familiar one, having that. And I meet so many people coming to Lawira as well that say, I have done everything society ever wanted me to do. I have this job, I have this relationship, I have this, I achieved this stuff that, having an apartment or whatever, a car. It's like, where is the happiness? What's you promise in our society that, if you do things right, then in the end of it, there is the pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, and you're going to be happy. But the happiness never comes. Even worse, as you finish that pursuit and dopamine driven, and you get there, you're empty as ever, and you start to get depressed and stuff like that. So I was in that position myself, and as just like you with your synchronicity, that with that layoff, that kind of a little nudge that you needed, I also had a synchronicity. I was working in offshore oil and gas, and I was actually really well off, because I'm from Latvia originally. I remember asking my ex-girlfriend what her wage was, and even though she was like university specialist, I was making more in a day working in offshore oil and gas than she was making in a month. So it's like I was really kind of, there's a dream, everyone kind of wanted my job, and here I am not enjoying it. And there's also guilt that comes with that. It's like, what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah.
But there was a moment where, for some reason, I think the oil prices dropped or something like that, and they cut our wages in half. And even though it was still an awesome wage, I was like, that's my way out. I need to quit, because I was really unhappy. And for me, the first step was travel, and then after travel came the psychedelics, because obviously I had to come to Colombia first to discover them. But I was thinking a lot about layoffs as a synchronicity, and that people don't really generally take them that way. It reminds me of that movie In the Air, or where this guy George Clooney flies around and fires people.
Yeah.
And I had this crazy idea, we should start a business where the layoffs happen, and instead of sending this guy, we send everyone to an ayahuasca retreat, so that they can actually find their new path, because finding the path is not easy. This dark night of a soul where you're by yourself and you don't know what the hell is wrong with you. Can you tell us about that experience? How was it for you when you ended up without job? Obviously, you felt it was positive, but I'm sure it was not all giggles and rainbows and butterflies, right?
No, it's not. And I have a big smile on my face, and I laugh about it now, because it can be really easy to glance over just how difficult it was. And so I'm glad that you asked that question. And I talk about it oh yeah, I came back, I got laid off, I was totally fine, and then I did this, and then I moved, and blah blah blah. But I remember during the time, that was the most turbulent period of my life. It felt like I had hit rock bottom. And I think when people use that term, hitting rock bottom, it's usually seen as a negative thing, but I knew that was what I needed to do. I needed to essentially tear down my entire foundation. Like everything in my life that I had done, that I had built, was shown to me through working with ayahuasca that maybe this isn't true. And having your foundation just absolutely shaken like that can be fucking terrifying. And so like I remember when I came back, the analogy that I was working with a therapist at the time and just talking to my friends about what it felt like coming back. And I used this analogy that it basically was like, before I came there, my life could be represented by this house. And this house was like a pretty nice brick house. And then ayahuasca just absolutely shook the hell out of that house. And when I came back, it was still being shaken. And all I could do was sit there and watch it continue to be shaken, and basically watching all of the bricks fall, brick by brick by brick. And there was nothing I could do to make it go faster. And there's nothing I could do to stop them from falling. I just had to sit there and watch the bricks that represented my life fall down brick by brick. And then once it settled, that was when I could really actually start that rebuilding process of, okay, this is what I want to do. This is for me. This is now coming from that place of self-love and security and trust in the universe and, connection to source that would build a much better house than anything that was ever there beforehand. And so no, it was not easy. And I think intention also has a lot to do with it. So with people that are looking to work with ayahuasca, if you don't have the intention that you're really looking to make that course correcting, like, live more in alignment with yourself, the medicine usually meets you where you're at. Like you're probably not going to get that insane foundation shaking experience that some people talk about. But, if you come to the medicine with respect and the understanding that, you really are committed to making that change, the medicine will help you do that, and it'll shed light on some of the shadows within yourself and some of the blind spots that you weren't able to see beforehand, to really help you do that. So the medicine helped me do that, but it was certainly not easy. And it's been over a year and a half, and I'm still integrating that first experience every single day of my life.
Yeah, that's not easy to switch the operation mode from like, I can compare it. The analogy that comes to mind is like you're there with two machetes going through the jungle and just ripping it off to find a path, versus you just standing there in the jungle and like listening and then following the natural crevices of the jungle. It's kind of like you can be in control and just constantly be pushing, or you can just let go of control and be like, universe is going to guide me. And for somebody who spent their entire life following some kind of predetermined path and just going somewhere and always being in control, and always like, I need to get good grades, I need to learn this and get this course and get there, all of a sudden to just let go and do nothing and just wait for the synchronicity and like work with the medicine. And there's like, I now absolutely believe that is the right path, and there will be synchronicities and the universe will support you. But that feeling of weightlessness, that moment of like free fall, that's actually what brought me personally to like deeper work with ayahuasca. So I had my ayahuasca experience, and then I had another one 6 months later, and they were all very profound, but I never really saw the connection between them and actual life change. I just know it's ayahuasca is one thing and life is the other thing. It's like I didn't think it was so connected. And then my life just started to fall apart, similar to yours. And this moment of weightlessness is where I came to ayahuasca full time. But it was because this state made me depressed, and then I came to ayahuasca to heal from depression. And like, but it's like now I can see at least 10 synchronicities through the last 5 to 6 years that brought me exactly where I am. And then now I understand that's exactly where I need to be. And now I went from kind of pushing to just observing and be like, oh, there's the same thing recurs 2-3 times, and you hear it from 2-3 people, and you're like, okay, there's something there, and you start exploring that path. It's like a very intuitive way to go about life. So yeah, it's something I'm still figuring out. what I noticed is you started by saying drugs, and now you start talking about medicine. So where is that shift where it stopped being drugs for you and became medicine? Or maybe it is the way you use it, where it can be both a drug and a medicine. Talk to us about that.
I would say that it's the latter. I think it's the intention behind it. If you're looking to use it as medicine, it's going to be medicine. If you're using it as a drug, it's going to be more so a drug. And the interesting thing is like there's no actual difference. Like ayahuasca is technically, like if you look at the Merriam-Webster's definition, it's technically a drug. And I think we just have so much stigma on that word because of the war on drugs here in America that rippled through the entire world and fucked everything. That there's just a lot of negative stigma attached to that. But I believe that there can be crossover between the two. Like I've used recreational like MDMA to go to a concert and had an amazing like spiritual healing experience there. And so there's definitely crossover between the two. And I think it really just does come down to like, what is your intention behind it? How are you using this? Because like now when I do that, if I have the same experience, I'm still looking at it as like, this is medicine that I'm just using in this type of setting. So like being able to understand your set and setting, having intention behind why you're doing it, who you're with, understanding what might come up during that and being able to feel supported. I think you can use these substances as medicine in a variety of different ways. So like I definitely don't believe in like the gatekeeping of it and like, oh, these have to be used, specifically more like mushrooms and MDMA, when people think that they have to be used in a ceremonial context. Like if you see life as a ceremony, well then you are always using them in some sort of ceremonial context. Ayahuasca, I think, is one of those that I would probably only do in specific ceremonies that are led by, medicine guides that have actually studied and have really deep personal relationships with them. That's at least where I'm at now with ayahuasca. But some of the other ones I have a little bit more leeway with in my own personal experience.
Yeah, ayahuasca is definitely an outlier. It kind of it's just not gonna let you use it in a like concert setting, or you just imagine a festival.
I'd be in and out of the bathroom the whole time. Like
the poor festival will need lots of cleaning afterwards because of all the purging. But there are definitely moments on ayahuasca when you can absolutely enjoy music and connect to it much more. I like what you say about the medicines or drugs. Yeah, definitely destigmatizing the word drug would be simple because sometimes it is what it is, right? Doesn't matter how you call it. It's just what it is. But those are tools, right? So the analogy I like to use is you have a knife and you can use a knife to make a salad or cook a steak and do good things, or you can stab somebody in the heart. So you can take mushrooms and go and like trip and like do crazy shit and like maybe regret it next day, or you can like sit with it consciously, or somewhere in the middle you can also use it ceremonial, or use it as a celebration. For me personally, whenever there is a mushroom ceremony, we don't do mushroom ceremonies. Unfortunately, in Colombia, it's kind of gray area.
mm-hmm.
Whenever I attended mushroom ceremonies, they felt less like ceremony and more like celebrations, because there's this inherent property of mushrooms that just makes everyone giggly and happy. And then it's hard.
There's much more of a social aspect behind it.
Yeah, it's like you want to interact with people. Like with ayahuasca retreats at Loire, we're like very strict, no talking. With mushrooms, you can't even like enforce that. People just they're gonna laugh and and that's the beauty of it, right? To be able to have those different tools in your toolbox, where you can like, okay, I'm gonna do ayahuasca once a year for a week and really like go deep. But then maybe 3 months later, I'm kind of in a very low space. Let me do some mushrooms, and in between, I'm gonna meditate and do breath work. And it's like people just want like whatever is your way is the only right way, and I think it's just not nice. And personally, I must admit, to all my listeners, I work with ayahuasca once a month, but occasionally I also work with mushrooms. And I can, if I'm having a really bad day, I can take a microdose and do some breath work and like recover my day. It's just an awesome tool. Like, what do you personally work with right now? What is your routine, psychedelic routine looks like through the year? What do you do and how do you do it and why?
So my two biggest tools in the toolbox are meditation and journaling. Those are like the foundation. And it wasn't something that I did before I had my experience with ayahuasca. It was something I had tried in the past and never did consistently. And then after my experience with ayahuasca, I just realized it was no longer, oh, I'm just trying to do this to achieve something. It was just a feeling like, oh, I just need to do this. This is something that like my body likes and needs and gives me the ability to slow down and then also connect to source, when I'm doing the certain practices. So those are definitely the two biggest. I'll definitely still use mushrooms. And usually not super high doses. Like I've tried some very, very high doses of mushrooms before. They've usually been solo, which is definitely a little bit different than when you're in a container that's able to hold you. So I've never actually done like a real mushroom ceremony before, where I've been held in that container and I'm actually being guided through a mushroom journey. Usually when I use mushrooms, it's, I'm out camping. I just want to connect a little bit more to myself and to nature. And so, I'll take maybe up to 1 gram. But I'll just be able to feel a little bit more. Breathwork is something that I really do want to get more into. I don't know. I'm just lazy. And breathwork is work, man. I've had some really crazy experiences with breathwork before. And I think that's another one of those things. Like I feel more comfortable being in a container where right now, at least in my journey, where somebody's leading me through breath work, just because I know how powerful it could be. And so, yeah, I'd like to get more into that at the moment, but yeah, meditation, journaling, those are the two biggest things. Also just working out, like when I'm working out and feeling physically fit, I feel so much better. And it's really interesting because when things start to get crazy around me, that's usually one of the first things that I see like slipping is like I stop consistently going to the gym and working out and like treating my body the way it needs to. And then once I start doing that, things become so much more clear again, just because my body feels good. I get to thank my body for taking my spirit through this crazy human experience.
Yeah, as I like to say, when people are leaving Loira, I step on the bus, and one of the things I say is like, do everything your mom or your grandma told you to do. Exercise, eat healthy. The difference is that after your psychedelic experience, you're more likely to actually be able to change those habits because you're flexible and malleable in your brain. So, but if you go and like choose bad habits, they will stick stronger as well. I'm glad you're mentioning journaling. Like we at Loire, we give people a integration journal. Like the first few pages is the template for integration, like questions that help them save more of their ayahuasca experience. And then it's just a free flow journal because I as a side effect, I say, if the only thing you get from this experience is a newly found habit of journaling, that's already a huge win for us. Yeah, because like people want this big bang thing that just once and for all will change everything. But in reality, even the strongest ayahuasca experience is gonna tell you what to do. It's not gonna do it for you. And the work, when people ask like, what is that work that I need to do? Well, journaling is one of those things. So you with conscious retreats, your new project, you help people choose retreats, right? What do you take into account? What do you look into? What are your parameters? And if you like, I'll tell you mine as well afterwards.
So the biggest thing is I like to meet people where they're at. So I'm never trying to sell somebody on going to an ayahuasca retreat or going to a mushroom retreat. when they come to me, they should have already made that decision. And so the first thing I need to assess is, have you actually made this decision? And like a lot of the time, people haven't made that decision yet. And then that's where I have to meet them. Like I won't even tell them about any single retreat center until they understand that this is actually something that they want to do. And it's something that they've decided themselves that they want to do. Like I don't want to ever convince somebody. So once somebody is at that state, then we can talk a little bit more logistics. I'll typically ask some questions about their physical and mental health to get an idea of if there are any contraindications that they need to be aware of that maybe they weren't aware of before. Talk about, some diet changes that are typically helpful to make beforehand, and really just making sure that they understand this is a process and not a quick fix. Anybody that ever comes to me and is like, oh, man, it's like something just happened in their life. They just broke up with their partner and they're like, I just broke up with my partner. Like, I've been hearing about ayahuasca. I need to go now. I need to figure this out. It's like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's stop and slow down. And like, do you understand what you're getting yourself into? And then from there, then it really just becomes about logistics. Like, can you travel? Do you have a budget? Do you have an idea of what this is in your mind that you're looking for? Do you want a big group? Do you want a small group? Do you care? And things like that. And then it's just playing connection. I'll then just connect them with the retreat center, usually like the founder or somebody there that I know. And I'll let them take it from there. Then I'll be very hands off. And if they have that conversation and the energy doesn't feel right, they come back to me and we try again. With another center that I know of. And I tell them sometimes it can be a process. You're not supposed to just say yes right away, unless that does feel like the right move. But that's the biggest thing to kind of reiterate at the beginning. It's meeting people where they're at and really getting to the truth. Because I think that, and this is something I do too, like I have this idea in my head of who I am and maybe where I'm at in my journey that might not actually be true. It's something that I'm trying to convince myself of for, whatever reason. So sometimes being able to have that conversation and get to that truth, it can be really hard for people because sometimes I have to say, I don't think you're ready, or I don't think you actually want this. And that usually can trigger a lot of people. And if it triggers somebody, it's because they know deep down that it's probably true.
Yeah. And how do you vet or choose retreats? What is your criteria for a good ayahuasca retreat, for example?
Ooh. So I mean, it very much has to do with the energy of the people that started the retreat center. So it's just getting a sense of like, why are you doing this? Like, what led you to want to do this work? And then also, some other actual logistic stuff of who are the people that are serving medicine there? What's their experience? Understanding, have you dealt with bad situations before? How you deal with those? Making sure that they've done their own work first. People that haven't done their own work and have gone on one retreat and then decide to buy a retreat center or something like that. I'm probably not going to send anyone there because they just haven't done their own work. They haven't really truly gone through their own journey. And so I want people that are really respectful to the medicine, respectful of people's experiences, and just energetically aligned with that. And a lot of that does have to do with intuition and feeling it out. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm perfect too. And so I want to make that very, very clear that I am not the perfect guide, like the be all say all. I'm sure there are some great retreat centers that maybe I haven't had the best feeling of when I've talked to them. And I'm sure that maybe, well, that hasn't happened yet, but like if somebody that I do trust, I send them to, again, like not everybody is for everybody. So it's getting a sense of that, of like, who do I believe this one would be the right person for? Whereas who do I think this one might be sort of a better fit? I don't know if that answers that completely, but that was probably the best way that I could answer that.
Yeah, there's definitely this thing where like different retreats have different vibes, and it's kind of like, you can have 10 people, but only one of them will be your friend because you're at that vibe. So some people might be vibing with one kind of retreat and some people with other kind of retreat. But my, if you're curious, I can tell you my
yeah, I am
parameters. So I believe that like gold standards when it comes to ayahuasca retreats specifically is number one, an indigenous shaman. Even more platinum standard would be if he comes from lineage, meaning like his dad is a shaman, his dad's dad was a shaman, and like that. That's like, Lamborghini of the shamans. Um, this number two is he himself or his family, they grow
Or she.
what or she. Yeah, that's true. That Maimas, I drank with Maimas as well. They're awesome. They grow their own medicine, they cook their own medicine, and they serve their own medicine, meaning like everything is done with same hands.
Yeah. I think that that's really important because it's a lot of the time with ayahuasca, it's the energy that's being put into the medicine that then helps them to be able to activate it once they then serve that. So if it's being cooked by somebody else with different energy and different intentions, you could be the greatest shaman in the world, but it can still not energetically align with the way that you activate the medicine.
Yeah. Then if the shaman is a European or just a local white guy, I say that they have to have dedicated at least 5 to 10 years of time to learn the craft, because this whole thing about you come in, drink ayahuasca once, and you're like, I'm a shaman now. That is very triggering for me after working with ayahuasca for 3 years and understanding the complexity of it. It's kind of like somebody saying that I'm a neurosurgeon after, just sending an application letter.
After getting brain surgery, them then trying to be like, I'm now a neurosurgeon.
I kind of seen what they did to me, so I'm ready now. And for that, the analogy I like to use is don't confuse the invitation letter to study in university with a diploma, because we've seen some people that even came through our doors that wanted to speed up their process of becoming shamans. So I think there is a possibility for white shamans and gringo shamans, but it needs to be done with reverence. So another thing, gold standards is the team has to have at least one facilitator per every 3 people in the group. Like if it's more than that, then if there is a crisis moment, they might be overwhelmed. The place has.
I see. So that I'm gonna say some places where I do disagree with you, and that's probably the one where I would. I think that it really just that one for me at least depends on the experience of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Like one for every. I mean, I would say like one for every 5 probably at the very minimum. Like gold standard is definitely one for every 3.
Yeah,
but like I think there's a little bit of leeway there at least.
There is definitely. I'm talking about like absolute
gold standard. Yeah, no, I mean if like I think one for every 3 is perfect.
Yeah, then I would say you need to have also one bathroom per every 5 participants. And I'm only saying it now because we just finished our Maloka. And, I got 8 bathrooms, so I'm a little biased because it's such a pain point for an ayahuasca retreat. I think they should definitely provide integration, in some form or another. Have an integration coach on staff, or maybe at least remotely. What else? Yeah, those are the things that immediately come to mind. Maybe having a hospital nearby is a good idea as well. I've been running retreats for 3 years now. We never needed a hospital, but it makes people feel comfortable. Like when we say, like, "Oh, we have a hospital 7 minutes away," this calms them down. And yeah, those are the things that come to mind. But there's a huge variety of the ways you can do it, and different traditions. And some do ceremonies at the day, some do it at the night. So when it comes to that, I would say, whichever retreat you choose to, and whichever tradition you choose to work with, definitely come with an open mind and just allow them to do the work the way they do it. It's kind of like, don't come to an Italian restaurant expecting like a borscht or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it's still, pizza is going to feed you and it's going to be nice. But if you expect borscht, you will be disappointed.
I agree with that. And I think also a common misconception that people don't understand with ayahuasca is that there are many different ways to serve medicine. They do it differently in Brazil than they do in Colombia, than they do in Peru, than they do in other parts of Peru, than they do in Guatemala and Ecuador. And so like, they're using what we would all consider ayahuasca, but it's still slightly different medicine. There are different alkaloids that are going to be present in the one that's cooked in Peru versus the one that's cooked in Colombia. And so, as somebody who, like, when you're first coming to ayahuasca, I think probably the most popular one that people hear about is the Shipibo tradition. And so that's not the only one, though. There are other traditions and other ways that people do medicine. So being able to have that open mind and understanding they're all healing, you just have to understand that and be open to that experience that you're going to have. But if you're expecting one specific thing, as you said, and then you get something else, you're just going to be disappointed. So being able to have that open mind and realize that they all work, you just have to be open to the process.
Yeah, it's also same to the ayahuasca experiences themselves. If you expect a specific kind of vision that you saw in a YouTube video, and then you're getting something else, while you are putting your attention and expecting something, you're missing out this ton of valuable stuff. Cameron, what's the maybe recent or one of your ayahuasca experiences that you can recall something, let's say, what's the craziest or the most interesting experience you ever had?
So I'll talk about my most recent experience. I was in Costa Rica about 6 weeks ago, and I was just there actually visiting some of the centers that I work with. I had no plans to actually sit with ayahuasca, and I got invited to sit in ceremony with somebody that I was staying with that I was connected to through a friend, and it was also too like a huge synchronicity. I was having a very deep conversation with my partner the night before we got invited to that ceremony, telling her how I feel very called to the medicine and I haven't been taking the time for myself to go do it. And, it's something that we committed to that night, that we were going to find some time for me to sit with the medicine. And then the very next morning, the guy was like, "Hey, we've got some extra spots at this retreat happening in 3 days. You guys want to come?" And I was like, well, I guess the universe just threw that in our lap. So yeah. So we decided to do that. And the style of ceremony was Santo Daime, but it was more of like a shamanic Santo Daime like mixture together. For those that don't know, Santo Daime comes from Brazil. It's actually technically a religion there that uses ayahuasca as their sacrament. But it was really cool because in the ceremony, I'd only sat with Shipibo before, but this ceremony, there's a big fire in the middle. And so when you're in the Maloka, you could actually see everybody. And it just feels very community oriented. And, I'd say the rules are probably a little bit more lax, at least at this specific one, than they are in certain Shipibo traditions or, where you might go. But they set up a fire outside of the Maloka too. So you could leave and you could be outside in nature and actually sitting by the fire that was outside. And during the second ceremony, I was outside by that fire and just sitting there, being in nature and like seeing the stars and putting my feet in the ground. I got down on my hands and knees, was just feeling the earth, and like I could feel the pulse of the universe and feel that I was a part of that and that is a part of me, and that we are all truly just one being of collective consciousness experiencing itself through all of these different vessels. It's still indescribable, that feeling right there. And so that was just really cool. And that wasn't something that I really felt as deeply during my first experience. I think my first experience was like a lot of trauma and like a lot of shit just being judged up, whereas this past experience was just pure awe and amazement and happiness and euphoria, and it was really beautiful.
Sounds amazing. It's with ayahuasca, like you never know what's gonna come. Sometimes you're gonna have this simply beautiful and just all around pleasant trip, and the other time it's very difficult, but nevertheless very productive. That's what gives me so much reverence to this medicine. It's like it gives you what you need. So I guess what you needed at that point is that I had one of my last ceremonies, maybe 2 ceremonies ago or 3. I had a similar experience. I was also sitting by the Maloka outside around the fire. We only have fire outside because, I wouldn't want to deal with the smoke and fire hazard of it, but I was in a deep process, and then I looked down my legs, and I could see my legs becoming like a bull feet, like the
Oh yeah.
and then I could see like fur on my legs, and I started feeling this desire to make like a bull like noises, when a bull is about to charge. And I completely freaked out, and I like pushed that experience away because I thought it was something demonic, and I was like, what the hell is happening? And then I regretted it because I realized that it was probably my spirit animal trying to like get in touch with me. So I really still to this day regret kind of like overriding that experience, because if it just felt too much energy, almost like I was becoming an animal. That's a very unusual feeling, but it felt, after going back to it didn't feel bad. It felt nice. It felt like natural. So
It's like these like really ancient like primal instincts of ours, like as to like how humans form. Like there's all this crazy DNA that's within us from millions and millions and millions of years of evolution. And actually, I remember during that experience when I was sitting outside by the fire, afterwards, I remember getting up, and I had this like urge to honestly sort of start like jumping around and making like monkey sounds, and just like in like a very, very playful mood of that. And I didn't do it at the time just because I didn't want to be, super loud or anything, but like I did kind of like allow myself to really feel that, and like feel those really primal instincts to just honestly like play and have fun, and just do things that don't necessarily make sense in human society these days, but they are primal instincts that are within us that do feel good.
yeah, genetically it's super funny. Like you have all the necessary genetics to also be a banana, right? Sometimes you might feel in the ceremony like a banana on the counting top, just like unable to move and just being in the moment. It's interesting. So do you reckon your spirit animal or one of them is a monkey?
I think I really do think it is, to be honest, because like I am a very playful individual. And it's funny, my uncle, when I was a kid growing up, he always used to just call me a little monkey. He still does actually, but I'm 27 now. So
I hope that doesn't offend you, but you do have some of that monkey energy, like in a good way. Like
no, I love it. I think it's great.
yeah. Well, it's another can of worms, right? The deeper spiritual side of things, like because with ayahuasca, like at Lawara, we say our motto is connect, heal, grow. It's like you connect to the medicine and connect with the group, connect with yourself, connect with the higher self, connect with God, universe, whatever. Then you heal physically, like you get rid of stuff, and then you grow. But this growth part is where ayahuasca becomes like unlimited. Like doesn't matter how many times you drink, there's always going to be something new, because like I honestly believe those states of consciousness you go to on ayahuasca are even more profound and more complex than this reality. It's kind of like there's layers and layers and layers, and you can go and do your limitless spiritual exploration. And this whole like naturalistic animal spirits and talking to the plants, and it's like that's another can of worms. Like it's like there's so much to explore there, like what it means, what is that for. It's like people ask you sometimes like, oh, they think like you drink ayahuasca once and it fixes you forever, so you never have to do it again. But then it's like, why do you keep doing it? Where it's you do it for yourself first, and then you do it for others, and you also do it to just limitlessly explore.
Do it for the rest of humanity. Like it feels like that by me going in and healing myself, I'm helping everybody else and everything else on earth to also have the courage and heal too. Something that I do definitely just want to add is like, we talk about these experiences while we're on ayahuasca, and they're great and amazing, but it is very important that we do then need to come down and do that work on earth, and be here and be present and be sober. Like we can't be flying high all the time, or else you're just bypassing. And so, the work is done not in ceremony. The work in my eyes is done after the ceremony. It's done through that integration. And we definitely touched on that before, but I always like to reiterate that to people.
Absolutely, yeah. The ayahuasca gives you homework. You got to do it. Do you have any favorite books on the topic you would like to recommend?
The Untethered Soul, one of my absolute favorite books by Michael Singer. The Four Agreements is obviously a great one too. I definitely do have other ones. I just can't think at the moment. I would definitely say like number one is The Untethered Soul. Mm-hmm. So definitely check that out if you haven't.
Cool. Well, Cam, I think it's time to wrap it up. I think it was a very interesting and entertaining episode for people. Where can people find more about you? And any last words?
Yeah. So first, thank you so much for having me, Sam. Like I am truly grateful for the opportunity to come on here and talk with you and hear more about your story. If you want to find me on social media, go to @_trip-sitting_. Instagram and TikTok is where I'm most active. And then if you're interested in conscious retreats for, if you're listening to this, go to Lawara. But if you're interested in exploring other ones, check out consciousretreats.net, and you could get in contact with me there too. And feel free to just send an email or send a DM. My email is tripsittingblog@gmail.com.
Cool. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Sam. Much love, brother.
Guys, thank you for listening to Ayahuasca Podcast. If you enjoyed, leave us a like wherever you're listening and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to support us and psychedelic renaissance at large, please follow us and leave us a like wherever it is you're listening. Share this episode with someone who will benefit from this information. Nothing in this podcast is intended as medical advice, and it is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This episode is sponsored by Lawara Ayahuasca Retreat. At Lawara, we combine affordability, accessibility, and authenticity. Lawara, connect, heal, grow. Guys, I'm looking forward to hosting you. Con la vida, vida de la baila, cura con la guaira, limpia, limpia, taita, vibrando con